Hey there, my friends. It's Bill MacDonald, the reading and writing doctor. Raise your hand if you have students who struggle with reading. Yeah, everybody. Raise your other hand if you have students who struggle with writing. Reading and writing, they're interconnected, but if we have kids who can barely read, we're going to have those same kids struggle when it comes to trying to respond, especially in the ECR, in the ER, the emergency room of the extended responses. So I want to do a video lesson with the hand that I posted in a previous Facebook post without a video, but I wanted you to be able to see the video now. Um, and I'll kind of take you through a couple of things and through the lesson. Again, I'll try to always keep the lesson as short as possible and stick to the most important things. So let me show those of you who haven't seen it yet. An essay has to have an introduction, which we'll use as the thumb, and a conclusion, a closing, which we'll use as the pinky. We also have to have somewhat decent conventions, editing, revising. In the center, we have a T, which will stand for the topic. The topic will have certain keywords, and some of those words will be about a question. Who, what, when, where, why, which, how. One of those is always going to be asked on an extended constructed response. So if all your students are doing is restating, but they're not responding, they have they have to, and you have to be aware that the ECR stands for extended constructed response, not extended constructed restating or repeating. So we got to figure out how do I get our kids, yes, to we can restate the words, but we have to respond to the prompt. So as you see here, in elementary, we have central idea statement, controlling idea statement for middle school, and for high school, it would be thesis. Okay. You can brainstorm, you can have some ideas. Uh, you can start any way you want and I just suggest that whatever you put to start, that it has something to do with the topic or the idea or ideas that your students are going to focus on, get it, focus in their essay. The middle has a W, so the first thing you're going to tell your kids is, where can I prove my answer? Where is the evidence, or why is this evidence accurate? So where, and then the E, the evidence. One, two, three. And so if the three middle fingers are the body, put a big B there to remind you, then you can have, depending on the ability of your student, one, two, or three uh, examples of evidence. And so if you remember I heart C, the introduction, the heart, the body is the heart of the essay, explaining and exploding evidence. So what we're going to do today is the I love you version. So in sign language, you only use your thumb, your pointer finger, and your pinky. And so instead of trying to get kids to start right away with three examples of evidence and then trying to explain and explode those, I would suggest let's show our kids how to go from the red light, responding to the topic and the question it asks, with another red light, an idea called the central controlling idea or thesis, then the yellow light, the evidence where it is, the location and the quotations if you want to do that, and then explaining one piece of evidence. So that's why I only have my pointer finger up, and then you can transition to the closing. And so that's what I have as my first sample, is how to do a simple response with kids, and then you can build from there. Okay, so for those of you that didn't see the screenshot that I did, the sixth grade, seventh, and eighth grade, they were all from this spring 23 up, cause and effect relationship in the prompts. The sixth grade said, how did the Camel mobile library affect the people of Garissa? And even though you might not have access to the passages, if you look up, if you have my sheet that tells the selection to read, a lot of it you can find online in articles and different uh, magazines that you can become a member of. The seventh grade said, right, robots can do simple tasks in the home and the workplace. The important part of that is explain some ways that humans benefit from that. Okay, the problem is some ways meaning more than one. And so as long as your students can do this, they have to have an idea about a home task and something that they can do in the workplace. And then how can humans benefit from that home task? And how can humans benefit from that simple task being in the workplace? This was a very difficult prompt because it was kind of like a three-pronged effect: the home, the work, and the benefit of humans of the tasks that robots were doing. The one I want to focus on today, though, is write about uh, what research reveals about horses' ability to communicate in that article, Say What Horse? And so the horse's ability to communicate is a cause, it's an action, it's something that happens, and so it has a reaction. The research, they started researching horses communicating, and what they want to know is what was the results of the research. So that's what I'm going to focus on with you today. So what I suggest that you teach your students to do is, as soon as they get the topic, do not try to answer it. Do not try to come up with a central idea. Do not teach them to restate the prompt yet. TEA, go straight from the topic to the evidence and look for evidence, examples that they can EXP explain. And so I went to just one, but I need an idea. Okay. It said, what did the research reveal? And so I saw this sentence here that we could use as part of our central idea statement. Research at the University of Sussex in England has identified 17 different facial expressions. So it reveals that horses have facial expressions, and facial expressions are one way to communicate. So we're gonna have to make sure we explain that. And so here's some examples of that, some evidence. Horses and humans raise the skin above their eyes when experiencing negative emotions. And so that's in paragraph 2, 1, 2, and paragraph 3. Okay, now what I did was I accidentally wrote the wrong paragraph. And so my question to you is, what's more important, the location, the quotations, or the actual evidence? And I would probably venture to guess that the most important thing is the evidence accurate and does it support? If you use if you say the wrong location, as long as you're giving the right evidence, I think that's going to be more important than missing by one number on the paragraph. So something that I made because of my folder that I'm about to show you is, this is something new that none of you in any training have ever seen. So for those of you who are asking me, is this new? Yes, I'm always doing something new to kind of build on the things that I've taught you before, so that the people from the press training can go to step 2, 3, 4. The people from the Texas tour trainings, the 30-day, the countdown to the test, all of those people are going to be able to get lots of new and fresh ideas that you can use and add to things that I've already shared with you. So yellow, each evidence example. Okay, the one that I highlighted in yellow, you see it right here, that the horses and humans raise the skin above their eyes when experiencing negative emotions. Negative, positive, that's important. So I need to be starting to think about a negative emotion. How do I explain that and explode that? Well, if you notice here, explain, EXPLAIN, and then exclamation. Why, when, where, who, what, which, how. Wow. Why, when, where, who, what, which, how, wow. And the wow you'll learn is the toes, the voice that we can often find in writing. And there's a saying that says, don't judge a person till you've walked a mile in his shoes. Inside his shoes are his toes, which are his voice, what I call the spice of the writing. So chips are great, but without any hot sauce, they don't taste as good. So if you see the acronym toes across the bottom, I'm going to use one of them for this uh, miniature essay that I'm going to write using the emotions. We are going to clearly state our controlling idea because it was a middle school. We are going to tell the paragraph that was in, and we're going to show the evidence in quotation marks. So how do I go from a 1 to a 2 to a 3? You got to do all that. And to keep the 3, you have to have the ending, the closing, and we'll see which W's that we use, and we'll highlight those, or yeah, I'll highlight them. I have my highlighter here nearby. So what I've done is many of you don't have a graphic organizer. So if you don't, this is something that you can use. I have my train, and so this is how I might train you how to use my train. So the first thing that you see here is they ask the student, what is the purpose? Okay, what is the purpose? Let me go ahead and put my annotations down. My purpose is informative, expository. We're going to be given information, but we're going to be writing or typing information, and we'll be explaining our ideas. Okay, what is the prompt, the topic, the question? And I had heard that they were supposed to tell us with the word prompt when there was any open-ended text evidence or short constructed responses or this extended constructed response. So we saw that I had in my hand drawing some red at the beginning, the introduction, the red in the conclusion, and then in the middle we had green for the pointer finger, blue for the middle finger, and uh, let me look just to make sure that I'm not lying to you. I had used orange to explain the ring finger. So if you decide to have 4 pieces of evidence, which there's no magic number, but just remember that explaining is sort of like a train, that every idea you share has to kind of be linked and connected together. So if you have a bunch of examples that don't relate to each other or your idea or the topic, that's going to hurt the organization of the essay. So a reminder, the prompt said, 8th grade, explain what new research reveals about horses' ability to communicate. Okay, so we're going to count sentences, and what I'm going to do is first I'm going to show it to you on the hand, and then I'm going to be showing you separately counting details. And so I'm going to let you see what I'm reading here first. So there's I for introduction. And I want you to notice there's a whistle there. Do you have a wow, a whistle, a hook, an attention getter before the ideas? And the reason I have 2 eyeballs circled is in the topic, are they asking about one idea or are they asking about 2 ideas? If they only ask you about one and you give 2 ideas in your controlling idea or your thesis, then you have to explain both ideas. So that's the compositional risk doing that. So as we look at the introduction, I have here research at the University of Sussex in England explains 17 different facial expressions that horses use to communicate. That's one sentence. So even though you can't see it, I placed one Smartie, the little candy Smarties equal sentences, dum-dums equal details, I'm going to use Smarties for sentences this first time, and then I'll use them for details afterwards. Okay. Then moving over to the pointer finger. The evidence that we're going to use is what I showed you, and I had put the fourth paragraph. And so if the student is in the middle of their rough draft, whoops, let me select first. If they're in the middle of their rough draft, uh-oh, it's not letting me select. That's not good. Let me see if I can do that again. So, like I said, I might not be able to. Let me see. Let me fix it. No, it's not letting me. Okay. So I'm hoping that I'm not stuck with this forever. Um, I don't want to delay my time in helping you guys. Um, oh, I had done the editing on the actual document itself. That's why I'm not able to do that. So let me edit from here. Sorry about that. I had forgotten that I had done it. Text, move this out of the way. Add, edit. No, the mouse. There we go. Shoo. It was going to be in the third paragraph. And so if your students are still in their rough draft stage, or even in their final copy on the box, then they can fix that. So it was in the third paragraph that we see that, and so whatever is inside the train, we have to teach them to take the evidence that's given. You can tell us the location and the quotations if you want when you're actually writing it, and that's what we did here. Uh, what is the evidence that you're going to use? And then the other EXP part, the if what I'm saying here is you're going to use this yellow evidence here that comes from the third paragraph, uh, explaining is the writing or typing between the lines. So it says in the third paragraph down here, the author states, comma quotation, horses raise, it was humans and horses, so I'm just focusing on the horses, raise the skin above their eyes when experiences negative emotions. And so I'm seeing here that I made a mistake again. Not when experiences, I have to um, when horses when experiencing negative emotions. So there's a sentence. I'm going to put that inside the pointer finger, and I'll show this to you when I'm done. That's the second sentence. And then you have to try and explain and or explode your evidence. If a horse is angry or afraid, a specific emotion, looking at their eyes will help people who are not good at writing what to know. Again, fixing something that I find as I go, when it's safe or too dangerous, period. So I'm going to place that one between the finger because I'm explaining the evidence. And then the second sentence about explaining, well, what does that have to do with horses communicating? A horse that is upset or scared might do something that could hurt its rider. And so even though that might not be the horse's intention, he's letting that rider experience or inexperience know that something is bothering him or her and it doesn't really want to be ridden. And then we have to have some sort of conclusion. So right now I see four Smarties, and so we need to have some sort of closure, closing with the idea, the topic, or the idea. All right. New research shows that horses can communicate through movement of their faces. And so most of the prompt was restated. Researching, I used shows. As you can see here, I used the word shows instead of reveals. And then communicating is the same. The movement and their faces was something that I changed it at the end. And so I'm gonna add a Smartie to the pinky. And so if I come out of there and show this to you, which I'll do right now. Show you my document camera. Here's what that looks like. I had a sentence to start. I had a sentence with the evidence, with the location and the quotations. I had two sentences to support it, to try and explain it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And I had a sentence to close the essay. So if I was to say, how many sentences is that? Well, I would have, for those of you that have the monkeys, it would be one green monkey, one yellow one to let the reader know that you're using some evidence, two green ones, and then a red one for closing. Okay. If you want to also keep track of transitioning, you might give your students points for moving from one idea to the next without giving the reader what I call reader's whiplash. And so you could place an extra smarty if you felt like they were transitioning well between the ideas. But that would be details, not sentences. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the little EXPLAIN part to kind of show you using, there it is. I'm gonna place the Smarties. I'm gonna tell you what kind of detail we're using to make the sentences because you explain Smarties sentences using details, little pieces of sentences to put together ideas to make complete thoughts. And so all of the W's that you see here, words that start with a W or end with one, like how, or the wow, the voice part. I'm going to show you all that in the same way I showed you with Smarties for sentences. I'm going to show you with Smarties for details. Okay. All right, and it's going to mainly just be for the body because the body is the part you're trying to explain. So we already have the introduction, the controlling idea statement. Research at the University of Sussex in England explains 17 different facial expressions that horses use to communicate. So I'm going to have to focus mainly on facial expressions, and that's what we did with our one idea. Okay, in the third paragraph, that's a where. The author states, that's the who. Horses, I'm going to call a horse a what, because they're not people. They raise their skin. That's what they do. Above their eyes. That's where they do it. Trying not to cover my W so I know which one's which. When experiencing, that's a what. Or we can say, I'll put it as a when they're experiencing. Negative, that's a wow. Positive or negative is people's opinions. Emotions are a wow. Opinions are a wow. If a horse, a what, is angry or afraid, ding, ding, emotions. How I'll put that one in the how. How is he feeling? Looking at their eyes, what you would do will help people who it'll help the people, which people who are not good at riding. Which people will it help to know when it's when it's safe, I'm sorry, or dangerous. That's a wow opinion. It's dangerous if their eyes, if they raise the skin above their eyes, kind of like when the parent looks down at you over their glasses and when their eyebrows go up, you can know that they're pretty upset about something. So a horse that is upset, emotion, we'll put that in the wow, or scared, might do something that could hurt its rider. Might do something, a what? To hurt its rider, the who. Now, I didn't even have enough Smarties. This was only 3 sentences. So let me show you using the explaining and exploding part. Um, Here is the document camera using that little, just with the two sentences, the three total sentences using the evidence and the way I explained it. Those are the details, and it wasn't even all of them. The EXPLAIN, and then why, when, where, who, what, which, how, wow. So we have, if I move this to the side, we had a when. And so this is you trying to explain yourself and teaching your kids how to understand their ideas. I have a two wheres, okay, two wheres. Where'd my pencil go? And I would have this laminated. I suggest all of you that have the class set that I already sent you, laminate these so that you can use them over and over, and the kids can use dry erase or wet erase markers to check and see when they're ready to go to their final copy, what kind of details did they have. All right, so continuing on, we have a, we had two wheres, we had a who, there was one of those. We had four whats. And so a lot of times, unless you break it down like this for your students, they don't really realize that it's pretty easy to at least try to explain. So you just have to ask them the right questions. I see a which there, so I'll put a one there. And I see two hows. There's my how there. And so as you see, almost all of them got used. Two hows. And then the toes, the voice that we talked about down here, those, that's what I would call the wow. If you want to put toes instead, you can do that. Um, but the toes is the voice that in the writing, the emotions, because we all have different emotions and feelings. And so there were about six altogether. I'm gonna place a little six there. I didn't even have enough Smarties to finish it. So even though we only had three total sentences, the evidence in one sentence and two sentences explaining, that's kind of like one way that you could show your kids. And all of you that are in the ER, the uh, emergency room for extended responses and editing, revising, uh, by the time you see this on your YouTube page or on your Facebook, I'll have sent you this copy by email so that you can add it to your teaching toolbox. What I'll also do, some of you asked me, um, I had forgotten that some of you uh, have received the hard copy of these, but you haven't received a digital copy. So I'll make sure I send you this week a digital copy of the folders, the graphic organizers, the little mini reading and writing binder, and uh, the new pages that I've added since last year that I've already shown a lot of things. Like this is my first time showing my little explaining and exploding uh, with, I guess, it looks like a pizza with pepperoni slices. So hopefully that was helpful to you. I would think that because everything is present, even though there was only one example explained a little bit, there's enough there to get a two or perhaps a three. That would be what you might call a 2-3 paper in terms of organization and development. And my conventions were pretty decent. So it would get probably at least a one, if not a two in conventions. So with two readers, we could hopefully get anywhere between a 6 and a 10, depending on how strict they are on the development, because that was typically for an eighth grader, but I can't teach an eighth grader on a fourth or a fifth grade ability level, something that only an eighth grader would be able to do. So kind of keep that in mind. Let's build to their grade because their ability age and their ability grade doesn't always match their or actual grade or actual age. Because I could be a 10-year-old on a 5-year-old ability level, or I could be a 10-year-old on a 12 or 13-year-old ability level. You don't want to expect the same things from students that are on such a wide range of ability levels. So that's my idea on how to use a combination of the hand, the little pizza with the Smarties, and the advanced folder. I think that's all we did today. Be sure to email me at writing_doctor@yahoo.com. I'll put that briefly on my screen for a second so that those of you who don't have the folders can see that. It's on the upper right-hand portion there, the writing_doctor@yahoo.com. Or if you're watching this on Facebook, you can send me a message if you have any questions. I do have the ER for emergency room for extended responses, editing and revising on sale until the end of the week for those of you who would like to receive these materials. I'm letting all of you watch the videos who are not part of it because I feel like we're blessed to be a blessing. We should never be that kind of teacher that kind of hoards and just doesn't share any ideas that we think will work. So uh, feel free to take what you like and uh, throw out what you don't. God bless and have a great rest of your week. Hope you had a great 4th of July holiday week so far.